Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Grapes and Greens. And today I'm at a venue that I absolutely love and had the pleasure of playing a number of times and kind of representing the club through the pandemic, which is Sunningdale Heath. And I'm joined by a good friend and the owner, one of the owners of Sunningdale Heath, Tom Reid. Tom, good afternoon. Nice to see you. Thanks for inviting us back.
Thank you for having me. I'm honoured to be on this podcast. There's been some great names on it so far.
Yeah, pleasure. And it's I think you epitomise exactly what we're looking for from the Grapes and Greens. One, you're known in lots of circles from different reasons in golf. You know, owner, a coach, an ambassador for certain brands as well, which is great.
Yeah.
But also, one of your other owners, Mark Hayton, owns a winery called Mischief and Mayhem. Not just any winery, but in the Burgundy region. And when I was here, I tasted a lot of the wines and enjoyed a lot of them. In fact, we actually put them in my son's bar, Tatham's. Really well made, great story behind it. And again, just comes back to that correlation between golf and wine. And very popular in the club?
Very popular in the club. You know, we're not sort of solely Mischief and Mayhem, which would be an easy sort of trap to fall into with one of our owners being, you know, the owner of that winery. But people love the Mischief and Mayhem wine. It's organic. It's got a great story as well. It's a story of involving a lot of passions from the investors at the club and bringing those stories into the golf club story. And interestingly, with these wines, you know, they're organically produced, so they're a little easier on the head in the morning, which always helps.
It's always good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also, you know, we've thought about that a lot at Sunningdale Heath. A lot of our local produce has a story behind it. Our beers are Marlow Brewery, Rebellion. A lot of our meats and a lot of our vegetables and fruits are all produced locally. So we try and be really thoughtful about what we stock at the club and what produce we buy. And the wine is just another sort of addition to the Sunningdale Heath story. Brilliant.
And that makes total sense in, again, what a modern club is about. You know, it's not... I see now travelling with Wine and Earth to so many clubs. And, you know, probably even before the pandemic, food was just food and drink was just drink. It's a pint and a bacon roll and I'm off. And that's it.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing much more consideration about hospitality in general in golf clubs. And we'll kind of touch on that a bit later. But what I wanted to do, let's have a slurp of this anyway. I think I've got a really nice red, the Sauvignon Le Bon, and I think you've got a really nice
This is the nicer white, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
this is the good bottle. Cheers, yeah, absolutely. It's past 11 o'clock, so I think we're okay.
Oh, that goes down well. Actually, you talked about food earlier. Sunningdale Heath is probably known throughout all the circles I know for having the best bacon roll. That would go down really nicely with a bacon roll.
Does go, yeah. You could have either or with a bacon.
Could.
Yeah, we just released a social media post on how we produce our bacon sandwich because
brilliant.
It has its own dedicated post because it's such a process because so much thought goes into it. And we launched in, as you know, in 2019 we took the keys, and then post-pandemic 2020 was our big sort of catapult into the golf industry, and the club started to get very busy. And we had a Michelin star trained chef who consulted for the business, and he was, because of the moment in time where people weren't traveling much and hospitality was, you know, very much on its knees in that period. And we, you know, fortunately for us, had access to one of the best chefs in the area, and he helped to sort of launch our menu. And he gave us a lot of education about standards. And he was a passionate golfer, but he was so keen on how do we make the traditional golf menu look more appealing, have more quality, and actually have more story around what it is you're serving and what people are eating. And it really catapulted us, and we've maintained our standards since. So the bacon roll and the Heath sausage sandwich are the best-selling items on the menu for 5 straight years.
I mean, as I said before, the number of people, if I mention Sunningdale Heath, they go with the bacon sandwich. It's a bit like Lot Lomond, and Willie in the locker room. You know, it's those type of things. There's a correlation between the two.
Yes.
Which I love, and I think it's great. Just shows you how good they are.
Good.
Let's go way back. So golf, how did it all start and why did it start? Tell us how you got into this wonderful game.
It's funny, I was 11 years old and I watched Tiger Woods win the Masters. It was on TV and BBC covered it at the time. You know, I'm old enough to only have 4 channels on my TV at that period. And he had this athletic physique, athletic wear. You know, he looked like a runner, like a track runner, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he's hitting the ball 325 yards and fist pumping and dominated the golf tournament. And all of a sudden, I just watched this golf tournament. I thought, wow, this looks exciting. And I was a classic English boy, rugby and football.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have any other thoughts of any other sport. You know, cricket wasn't a thing for me, nor was tennis. I grew up at a very modest state school just outside of London, so there wasn't a lot of green space. So those were our big sports. And
Where was that?
I grew up in Witton, so it's just not far from Twickenham Rugby Stadium was my area. And it's quite, you know, city life for me growing up. And the golf course was this sort of green space that I'd never really explored before. And you drive past it and see it. And my home club was Fulwell, which is in Hampton. And we gave it a go. And I thought, I want to get a Nike polo shirt and I want to get some golf clubs and I want to learn how to hit the golf ball. And then all of my friends at school had the same sort of energy spark as I did. And that's how we got started. And my mum and dad joined me up at Fulwell Golf Club when I was 12 years old. They weren't convinced. They didn't think it was going to be something that I was going to stick to because my parents aren't golfers, nor massively into sport. They used to work a lot of hours. So our free time was more sort of traditional family-based stuff. And I started playing golf, and how it worked for me, I loved the fact that it required a lot of art, creativity, and skill. I had no technical knowledge. I had no lessons. I just had to figure out how to connect with the ball and have it feel good, and then just figure out the curve next. And Mum and Dad for Christmas bought me David Ledbetter's How to Swing golf book. And I followed it page by page, and I learned how to put my right hand on. Then I had to switch it because I'm a lefty, so I had to translate that.
I'm a lefty too. There you go. 2
lefties here, so I had to learn how to put my hands on the club and how to move. You know, I had to switch left from right when I read the book, and that was it for me. That I think the thing that I loved so much about it was that it wasn't the old sport, the fuddy-duddy, slow, overly traditional sport that it was made out to be in the mid-90s. It actually turned. And Tiger had the most to do with it. And I just loved the skill element to the game. It was, for me, it was like an artist with a paintbrush. You were just left with a canvas and then we'll see what we get at the end. Golf was a bit like that to me. It didn't have as much structure to me as I thought it had. And I was just obsessed immediately.
I think that's great for a kid though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, just go out and play.
Yeah, just go out and play.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to be a golfer, go play golf.
Yeah.
You know, the TrackMan numbers are only going to get you so far.
So far, absolutely.
And that's,
and how, when was it when you thought, well, I'm actually not bad at this game, and maybe turning professional? Did you, ever thought of, I'm going to be that good that I could play on tour, or was it always, actually, I want to go down the route of coaching?
It's a really good question, because there was a turning point where that changed for me. But my first view was that I want to win golf tournaments.
Okay.
I was really keen on shooting scores and winning and getting my handicap to plus figures as soon as I could. I got to scratch at 16, so I sort of started at 11, 12, and I was scratch at 16, so I was all about the score. I had a good short game, so I knew that perfect golf, I didn't think about perfect golf, I just thought about score. That really helped me in my early years. I had to then sort of tidy up later on, but that definitely gave me the ability to score, which is ability that I rely on now that I don't play so much.
Yeah.
The ball is not as in control as it used to be because my professional career is more in the office and on the driving range now. But it certainly started out as I want to win the Open and play the Ryder Cup. I was inspired by people like Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson. They were my 2 sort of heroes in golf. And in that period of time, they were doing battle week in, week out. And Ernie Els was still around then too. I loved watching him play because of his rhythm.
Yeah. Not bad icons to follow, really.
No, they were pretty good, weren't they?
Not bad, not bad. And obviously, Phil being a lefty, you probably wrote for him a little bit more.
Do you know, I wanted to have Yonex clubs because he was sponsored by Yonex at the time, but they were so expensive. We couldn't afford them. So I had to go with something a bit lower grade. But yeah, I was very influenced by Mickelson because, again, he was a guy that was not, there was no constraints with him. You know, lots of flair and lots of freedom and creativity to his golf. And I was really inspired by guys like that. And Tiger was the same.
Yeah.
You know, so much feel to his sport. And I think that's the part that I try and instill. I mean, I know we're going to talk about junior golf today, but I do try and instill that creativity and encourage as much individuality and creativity into my students, especially my younger students. The more that they can be creative and be themselves, the much better they can get.
I had the pleasure of meeting Phil when he came up to play in the Barclays Scottish Open a number of times.
Loch Lomond.
My first year, we had a dinner that Lyle Anderson put on, and I was delighted to be invited. And I sat next to Bones, his caddy.
Bones Mackay.
Obviously a great guy now, you know, does a lot of commentary, and he told us a story. He just reminded me about Yonex. And I said, how did you get together with Phil? And he said, like, well, literally, I said, we were at college together. He goes, no. I had come out of college and I wanted to be a player. I wasn't going to be quite good enough. So caddy, that'd be the next best thing. Anyway, Phil had won as an amateur, and then he turned pro, and he was kind of looking for a caddy. And someone said, like, the kid over there, he could be quite good. And he said, well, let's go for it. Second week, he wins. I'm thinking, oh, this is great. So he moves on, and then he got the sponsorship with Yonex. So he had to go to Japan. And he says, the first time I've been outside the States. And he said, so we sit down, sponsors dinner, everything else. And no wine, no beer, sake. And Phil looks at me and goes like, I'm not taking it. You've got to take it. So he said, okay, fine. He said, I've never had sake before. And he says, that's actually really quite nice. He said, about 14 or 15 of these, no problems at all. And then suddenly I needed to go to the toilet. And he went, oh my God. He was like going round and round and round. Got to the toilet and then just collapsed. And as he was going down, he was going, oh my God, my career, this is going to be horrendous, it's going to be terrible. I'm, you know, probably the best player in the world, X, Y, and Z, it's all over. Wakes up in his bed, fully clothed, put to bed with a note saying, thanks, mate, taking one for the team. But that was from Phil. So it just shows you, doesn't it?
That was his rite of passage, wasn't it?
Rite of passage, and obviously what they went on to do. I was just fascinated by those little stories of how things come together. And I think this, again, is what Grapes and Greens is about. It's stories of lifestyle and memories and travel, which is great.
Yeah.
So didn't work out as a player.
Yeah.
So tell us next, so where did you think, right, I've got to earn a living. If I want to earn a living at golf, I remember you saying that you were competing with Giuliotto, a bit trying to be like #1 apprentice. Is that how
that's right. Yeah, good memory.
And that seems to always come across with you, is that ultimately professional, but also very competitive and very determined to do well. So you did all those exams. You did them to a very high caliber, very high level. And then you went to work at Wentworth? Was that the first job?
I was during my apprenticeship, and my training was done at Wentworth. I did my training there. But at the time, so Stephen Gibson was my boss at the time. And
I was speaking to Stephen the other day.
Oh, well, there you go.
Because he's in Saudi now. He's going to be another one of our guests.
Oh, he'll be a fascinating subject. I owe a lot to him. I learned a lot from working for Stephen. Stephen was very professional, but very calculated. You know, he definitely had a sharp eye, and he definitely knew where he wanted to be. And I observed that. You know, I think that a lot of learning that you do, and it's a parallel to learning golf, right, is through visual, through observation. You know, when I teach kids and dads, or parents and kids, they have the same swing tendencies as their parents because they've observed their parents. They mimic. And when I was a young, impressionable pro, I was still handy with my golf, but it was not going to be at the level that I hoped it to be. And I was aware of the dedication that it needed, but I was very hardworking by nature, and I thought I need to get a job at the best club. And if I get a job at the best club, I'll get the best training. And if I get the best training, that will give me the best opportunities moving forwards. Now, I never knew anything about private clubs. I didn't know much about Surrey, and I didn't know much about private schools. So Wentworth was a big learning curve for me. There was a lot that I didn't understand when I arrived there. I felt really out of place, and I thought I was an imposter. So I begged Stephen at the time for a job. I was a little too young. I was in my teens at this point, and he said, not yet. So I said, okay. So I got a job working at the front of house. I would clean clubs, park cars, I worked the driving range, I caddied, I had a job working for my mum in an office. So I had sort of 2 or 3 jobs I was working. I was hitting balls and I was playing some tournaments. So I was full on, 7 days a week, no complaints.
Things haven't changed by the sounds of it.
No, they certainly haven't. No, today would be a good example. No, I definitely don't do things by halves. So the long story short is that he eventually gave me the opportunity because I basically, pestered him to the point where he had to give me a job. And I thought to myself, okay, ground zero, there's 10 PGA professionals at Wentworth. How on earth could I compete with them? They're very well thought of. They've got great client lists. They're very busy, lots of reoccurring lesson relationships. And I thought, how do I start? And Stephen said to me, Tom, people by people. So just be a good person. I thought, okay, good tip. So I started to look after people. I've always been very interested in people. So I like to ask questions, and by asking good questions, I get more intel. And the more intel I can get, the more effective I can be when it comes to a golf lesson or to any level of service I can provide for them as a pro. Because we were working in the shop, we were working in events, and we were working on the driving range. So I was building up this library of information just through being inquisitive. So fast forward 7, 8, 9 years I spent at Wentworth doing every job you could imagine. So I started cleaning clubs and caddying, and then I worked through and I developed the Junior Golf Academy, which was my old colleague Kerry Knowles, who's worked at Goodwood and Stoke Park, one of the best pros in the golf industry. She taught 6 kids on a Saturday morning. And she said to me, Tom, I'm in my 40s now, I'm at the later part. I don't want to teach kids anymore. Would you teach these 6 kids? And I said, yeah, okay. So I went in there and I taught the 6 kids, and great fun. We were playing games and lots of energy, and it was really, really interesting. And then all of a sudden I thought, gosh, this is fun. So I thought I'll try and have 2 groups of 6. 5 years later, I had 120 kids being taught on a weekly basis at Wentworth, because it was a service that wasn't being provided by the club and by the pros.
And that was just from members' families, or could you have outsiders come in?
Word of mouth. And we could have outside families in.
Okay.
And I ran a trial day where I would interview the parents and the kids, and for half an hour, and I'd book them in, and the shop helped me with all my admin and logistics. And I booked them in and profiled them, sort of underpinned the categories with age, but it was mainly ability. I said, this is all on ability, not on age. Parents like that, because a lot of parents think their kids are going to be better than the other, and that's fine. So we got them in the groupings, and that was how it all sort of panned out for me. But I guess it all just stemmed from being very, very hardworking, but actually just I had a bit of a vision for where I wanted to be.
And that's carried on, really. I mean, here, you still do a lot of junior coaching, don't you? And you're seen as a go-to, I think, for other pros, but also for parents who think they have a prodigy. Is that right, would you say? Yeah,
it certainly is. And it's an interesting thing, isn't it? It reminds me of like the Brad Faxon interview, hey, why are you such a great putter, Brad? And he's like, well, because you keep telling me I am.
Yeah.
And I think that with the junior coaching, as good as I am, I think that people keep telling me that I'm good, which lifts my confidence and makes me want to do better. And I think that they tell other parents the same thing. And gosh, 14 years later, I think I'm, seemingly the go-to guy for junior instruction in the area. And the academy here has grown. We have 4 schools that come in weekly. Right. We have our own junior academy that has 90 kids on a waiting list at the minute. It's a problem we're trying to solve. That to me is not a thing to boast about. It's a problem. We need to service those kids that aren't being taught. And we need to make sure that obviously we're delivering a good service, but also that, what is the point of the junior academy? And I think that's where we're doing well at Sunningdale Heath, is that the point of junior academy is not to factory machine these unbelievable robots that can swing and hit the ball beautifully. Certainly we aim to make them great players, but the academy is about kids lifting their confidence through golf and improving their social skills through golf. I love the kids that come up here and they're happy just meeting up with their friends and they happen to be playing golf.
Yeah.
I
think that's what golf gives. I was lucky enough to, the first chairman of the St Andrews Links Junior Golf Association. So any child who was between 5 and 18 who either went to school or lived in the town became a member free of charge. Right. And we had 100 volunteers, let alone how many kids we had.
Wow.
And it was backed by the RNA, it was backed by the Links Trust. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. And all of the volunteers went through level 1 PTA, so we got all the PDA involved as well. And for me, my boys were involved in it as well. I think it was 3 years that I was involved with it, and it was brilliant. It was fantastic. And when I see what you're doing and others are doing, I think that's great. But the biggest thing, if they don't go on to major things, is the social ability that it drives. I think that's so important, as you've highlighted, is that golf gives you confidence, but it also, again, to your point, is you look at others and how do you behave, and how do you look at, to speak to your elders, if you like. In today's world, where a lot of people aren't used to that because they're so used to phones, and it gets them away from that. But it also gives you an environment where, again, you look at people around you and you kind of act towards that type of social interaction that is acceptable outside of golf as well.
That's right.
I think it's a really big, important thing for kids of that age, when they're still learning and they have influences, can be a big factor in the way that they move forward in their lives.
100%. And I think, it's fascinating, isn't it? If you don't expose your children to a social environment and a diverse social environment, I grew up in a pub. Yeah. My mum and dad, that's what happened on the weekend. We'd go for a walk, we'd go to the pub. So we'd be socialising. We'd be meeting people in the pub garden that we'd never met before, and you learn to play together and you get exposed to different people in different environments. And that's where I think the golf club has the biggest advantage over so many, especially a club like this where we are inclusive and we are open. There's guest play as well as member play. So this has a very diverse group of ages and levels to a certain degree. So the kids are getting that opportunity. And moving forwards, technology is starting to dominate the world that we live in. And it's very easy to live your life in a screen, in a room. It's realistic for that to happen now. Yeah. Perhaps there's a spike in homeschooling. There's a spike in, solitude in the bedroom with technology. And ultimately, all of those social skills and that development gets stunted for those junior golfers. So if the golf club could be a place where we bring some of that older social practice into play, then that serves a great purpose to the community.
Next question really is, so have we got a budding Rory McIlroy or a budding Charlie Hull coming from your academy?
It's amazing, isn't it? Because I could probably say let's say I taught 10,000 kids in my career, it's probably 1,000 I could say that would have the potential to be something special. There's just so much that goes into it. Yeah. And there's interesting character traits that I've picked up on with kids, and certainly with kid and parent dynamics, that I've found to be conducive to really good elite golf. There's a lot that happens in teenage years. But certainly with girls, where the drop-off in golf between the age of 12 and 16 is very high.
You still see that?
You still see that. It's getting better, but it's a very slow curve. Okay. And certainly, a lot of people talk about growing the game. It's a big taboo subject, and people like to talk about it, but who's doing it? What is your club doing to encourage teenage girls, for an example? And the more girls that we can have in the sport, and the more boys as well, because boys drop off in their teens as well, the better, because we have that pipeline that's bringing more and more elite players into college golf, which 20 years ago was not really the pathway, because it was very expensive and travel wasn't as active as it is now. Certainly when I was 18, there was scholarship conversations, but the cost was too big for the family, and at the time it wasn't normal. Yeah. So there was very few people that did it, whereas now the conversation is, if you want to be a tour player, this is your pipeline. You play for your county, you play for your country, you get a scholarship to a Division I school, and then you go to tour school. Yeah. Now there are outliers that have gone about it different ways, like your Rorys of the world, but we certainly have a lot of kids that have that capability here and that I coach. But what's going to get them to that level? Well, I think a level of dedication, and I think that probably the main trait that I've noticed with the really good ones is discipline. Some kids and adults as well have a high level of discipline with their attention to detail, with how they train, how they practice, and how they behave on the golf course. And I think that the ones that have that discipline, that borderline OCD personality type, I think they're the ones that seemingly, when I look at the leaderboards week by week with the kids that I'm teaching and the college golfers that I'm teaching, those appear to be the more common character traits in those that sit higher on the leaderboard.
Would you, there's a question I gave to you before we started, would you go on tour with one of the, do you see yourself, if you do see someone with that absolute ability, like a Rory or wherever, where you've taken them, I mean, Rory's had his coach since he was a kid, hasn't he? I mean, he goes to others, but, he always calls his man out when he needs a reaching. Would you see being one of those? Yeah, potentially.
I've always felt that it's going to come at some point.
Yeah,
just because of the sheer volume of young golfers I've worked with and do work with. That the stats would say that they're going to get there, and there's half a dozen I can think of now that probably will get tour cards if all goes the way it should, or if we continue on the progress that we're on. So it's interesting because when it comes to swing work, all of the good swing work is done away from the tournament. In my opinion, I think if you're going into a golf tournament cramming, a bit like revising the night before an exam, that means that you're ill prepared. So I think there's an element of let's prepare you properly for the golf tournament. But then also, the tour players they're superstars. They've got egos. They like having their team around them now. That's the modern approach. And they sort of want you there because they want you to see how they're performing mid-round, which is always different to the driving range. So there's that reality that a coach has to be aware of their players' performance mid-round, mid-tournament, how they're behaving. So you're there as a safe pair of hands to a certain degree. So the very sort of long answer to the question is, I think if you do get a player that gets to that top 100 level in golf, you kind of have to be there with them. But I think we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, because the negative side to that is that I won't be able to help the 100 kids that are being taught Sunningdale Heath every day. We're currently trying to recruit more and more great coaches here at Sunningdale Heath. We have 7.
7 now.
And we don't even have a driving range. So the indoor golf studios and the golf course is proving to be really successful for a teaching business. So recruiting more junior instructors, like a lot of the great coaches have done. David Ledbetter, Pete Cowan, Butch Harmon. I have a lot of people that have trained under them.
You worked for David Ledbetter, didn't you?
I did. I learned a lot from David.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
David, if we go back in time to my career at Wentworth, in order to be the best golf coach, you have to learn from one.
Yeah.
And I had to explore that. And because my book that I was bought as a 12-year-old was David Ledbetter's How to Play Golf, it must have been in my mind somewhere. Because I decided to go to the PGA Trade Show, and how do I get in front of David Ledbetter? I thought to myself, well, he's doing a swing seminar, $150, 9 till 5 at Orange County driving range.
There you go.
I need to put my name in, and I'll sit at the front row, make a nuisance of myself, and hopefully get chatting to him. And by the end of that seminar, he was asking me to come up and hit shots, because I think I'd annoyed him as much as he might as well shut me up by getting me up at the front. I had a lot of questions for him, very inquisitive, as I said earlier. And we started talking at the end of the seminar. And I was teaching somebody that had lessons from David historically. So we had that mutual connection. So I used that as a conversation starter. And
clever.
Yeah.
I guess. Find a way to enter, anything in business, it's always, how do you have that extra, what's that in that I've got that I can get in front of somebody, and it's so useful. Yeah. Start a conversation with not what you're trying to sell.
That's right.
How you can engage.
Yeah, and he was appealing to me for so many reasons. It wasn't just that he coached 21 major champions, illustrious coaching career, but it was more that he actually was commercial. And, I'm of the view where no matter how good I make my golf lesson and how good I am with my knowledge base, if I don't have a commercial mindset, then I'm never going to grow. I'm going to be the guy that's on the range exchanging my time for money forever. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, at all. It's brilliant coaches that have done that their whole career. But I was more ambitious from a business standpoint. Yeah. And I thought, who's the best businessman in golf? I figured it was David. So he was my target.
Yeah, no, fascinating. And then talking about business, this opportunity at Sunningdale Heath came on board. So just tell us how and why, and how are we here today? Because it's a great story, really.
It's a pinch yourself thing, For me, growing up, my aspirations were to be a tour player, and then they were to become the best golf coach. And then I thought to myself, God, I'd like to have my own academy one day, maybe my own driving range. That was the way that I was thinking when I went to learn from David. That's where my mind was at. And it ended up here at Sunningdale Heath. We have an indoor golf studio, TrackMan studio, and my colleague and business partner Christian Baker, who was my colleague at Wentworth at the time, he had the idea to build a golf studio at Sunningdale Heath Golf Club, formerly Sunningdale Ladies, and he brought me on board to sort of help him evolve that idea and try and execute it. A Wentworth member who was a client of ours agreed to fund the project, and we built a golf studio. And the idea was that Sunningdale Heath would benefit from rental for the use of the space and also for an increased footfall. So we worked with PXG. We were doing all of our fittings so that we were the first people to fit for PXG. It was in 2018. When they were a new brand, really exciting brand, great product, good price points, very unique, sort of an outlier at the time. Yeah. So we used PXG.
Still are really. Still are. Degree. Yeah. Always. Bob Parsons is looking at, doing things differently, and he's definitely a disruptor in the golf market. And
pretty tough market to disrupt.
About that. Yeah,
they did a great job and still do. There's a lot of PXG clubs in people's hands as well.
Yeah, very much so.
So yeah, that was our leapfrog, and then the club was unfortunately struggling at the time. It was committee run and running at a loss, and the business was declining. Because ultimately a member-run club that didn't have individuals that had commercial backgrounds and really much golf knowledge, they didn't know how to solve their problem. But we were on site. So, we created a very organic, very, just natural relationship. They just learned that we were nice people that were good at our jobs. So they asked us some advice. And we soon realized that a small bit of advice wasn't going to help. It needed capital, it needed investment, it needed a business plan, it needed a 25-year conversation. So we decided to put a proposal together, and we needed investment. So we engaged with our investor, as you may have, Mark, and our original investor of the golf studio, who was a retired entrepreneur, very passionate and knowledgeable businessman. And we knew, that I think the best thing for us, Christian and I, we don't have egos, and we know we need to learn from people if we're going to get lifted ourselves. We're going to lift our own standards. So these guys were very good businessmen. So we thought, right, we're golf and they're business. So there's four of us. We could do this. So we put a proposal into the club. The long story short was that it was first refusal, as per the historical bylaws, was that Sunningdale Golf Club, our neighbours, were entitled to be a part of that bid process. And it was us four, Sunningdale Golf Club and Sunningdale Heath, sort of battling it out to see who would be voted in as the owners. Wow. Two members from Sunningdale Heath at the time wanted to take on the project as well. So there was a lot happening. It took us 18 months, but we were sort of campaigning, in a certain way. But we felt that we had a genuine connection with the club and the members. And I think the members knew that. And our plans were to really enhance Sunningdale Heath and bring it into the future, but also tip our cap to the tradition and the historic values that all of the members had.
I think you've done that really well. I have to say that's one of the things that what still does endear me to Sunningdale Heath is the nod to what's happened and the traditions, but actually taking it into the 21st century in a big way.
Yeah, thank you, and that we have tried to do that, and we're very aware that this is a 1902 Harry Colt Heathland golf course in Sunningdale, next to one of the best golf courses, or two of the best golf courses in the world. Yeah. So we know that this is a very valuable piece of real estate in the golf space. And, the members, we work very closely with the members, very genuine and honest and trustworthy conversations, I would say. And ultimately the members had to vote us in. So we sat in this clubhouse here. There was 80 members present of the 200 that were on the books. And they had to vote us in at a 75% majority for the vote to carry. So we sort of sat there thinking, well, we have a golf studio here that's a business. We have Sunningdale next door. And if the vote doesn't go our way, then everything's in jeopardy. The golf club might cease to exist, which means our golf studio might cease to exist. And where on earth do we go from here? But, all went well. So 97% majority. So
wow.
The club members.
Wow, 97%.
And of the 3%, that didn't vote, they're still here. So, we converted them too. And I think the best thing that we've done really is we surrounded ourselves with good people. And that's a big thing I've learned in my career, is that you don't know it all. You need help, you need support, and you need a team. And I guess the thing that we've done right is that we've brought in the right people to help us grow. Because we don't know it all.
And that is so true. If you listen Yeah, we've done podcasts with Danny Paccarelli, where the exclusive says exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Mark Hayton, the owner of Fox Hills, says exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And it is so true. I mean, you know, yes, I was the chief executive of Loch Lomond, but I couldn't run that place on my own. And, you know, what you learn from Club Managers Association of America and Europe from great leaders is that, you know, you employ people who are better than you at doing what they do really well. And then you give them the tools and you give them the freedom to just use their skill sets.
Yeah.
And that is so important. So many people, they just want to control everything. And that is the worst thing you can do when you've got really well-trained, well-skilled people who can do a great job for you. Because you're never going to get them to constrain under somebody who doesn't really know as much as they do.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you've done really well. I think that's, you know, I just walked in and everybody's still really friendly. I probably haven't been here for about a year.
Yeah, they know you.
Wherever. They know the name and where you've been, and you've got great suntan and all this stuff, which is great.
You do.
And it's so nice to have, you know, it's so nice to have that in a club. But also from you as an owner is to keep those people, because I think a club is so important that you keep and retain those staff, because it is the second home. We talked to Danny Peccarelli about that, why a hotel is very different from a golf club. A hotel you may come once, twice a year, maybe top 6 times a year. Golf club you come every day. And you've got it, and it's their second home. So they expect things to be the same things all the time. Which is, in one way, they hate change, but in other ways, they like change because there's something to talk about.
And this is what a club is about.
Yeah.
It's about people. You know, when members walk in here, we know their dogs' names. We know what they like to drink. We know where they went on holiday last week, and we want to know if they had a good time. And these are the benefits of smaller clubs. And if you can get somewhere, I use Loch Lomond as an example. Willie, who we've spoken about, is famous because of his unbelievable memory for people. And if that man wasn't interested in people, then he wouldn't have a good memory for their dogs' names and where they went on holiday. And we here, we love people. And I love people. So I find people fascinating, which is where the parallels of golf coaching and running a business are so strong. Because people kind of said to me, like a lot of friends and people in the industry, and humbling words that I had to receive in my first year here was, what do you know about running a golf club? And my response was, nothing. But I know a lot about people, and I know a lot of people. So I'm going to get the answers to the questions, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to employ the people to do the jobs that I cannot do, which ultimately means I'm probably going to be successful. So those parallels, and it all just stems back to that original conversation about people by people and about social skills and the ability to connect with people. I just think that's the biggest super skill that you can have in...
But you one of the questions I wrote down was, do you like multitasking now? Because it could be very easy to just be swayed into, that's my skill set, that's go. But you've got to wear a lot of hats as well, because you've got to lead that team and be seen in different areas. So your day is not just purely teaching, is it? No. It's, as an owner, there's so much more to it, and a lot more, you know, taking up a lot more time in the day.
Huge level of responsibility that, you know, and, you know, that old saying of, do you want the ball? You know, and I guess I've always wanted the ball. I've never been too shy to have a go at something. Deep end learning is something I'm passionate about. Throw yourself in and try not to drown. You know, and people see that, and some people say, hey, that's a reckless attitude, but actually that's not. You know, you're not going to know everything. So you've got to get started somewhere. When
you're outside of your comfort zone, that's when sometimes you do, because you've really got to concentrate. If it's easy, it's like, maybe I don't do it as well.
Exactly. And you know, I'm not afraid to play a golf tournament. You know, when I was younger, I'd put my name in the hat and go compete. Because, you know, a lot of people are afraid to fail. And I think that's where that you lose opportunity. You know, if you're not afraid to fail, then you're never going to give yourself the chance to achieve something or to learn something, more to the point. And there's a lot of people that I think, you know, reserve themselves from, I won't do that just in case, I don't know how to do that. It's like, no, if you go for it, okay, maybe 5 times out of 10 you'll succeed, but then the other 5 you'll learn something. So the more times you go for it, your margin gets much better.
And the mistakes that you make, you learn from. You don't necessarily learn from all the wins.
No.
Because you kind of knew that anyway, and it was okay. Absolutely. The mistakes actually are the ones you learn from. Absolutely.
And I guess the biggest lesson that I've had to learn to wear those hats is time management. And I guess my obsessions are, I have lists, I've categorized lists. They're in 4 quadrants. So I have Sunningdale Heath, I have coaching, I have future business developments, because I've always got my eye on something else. And then I have my family and my friends. Sure. And I've said that one in 4th, but the priority order is very much in family, goes at 1. Yeah. So I've been able to sort of categorize my life to remain organized. Yeah. And the list writing helps me then construct my diary, which is my time management. And my time management has to be balanced in a similar quadrant. So I'll have an element of me, which will be going swimming and going to the gym, which I like to do. Then I'll have coaching, then I'll have business, and then I'll have family. Mm. And those 4 things play a role in my everyday life. Sometimes there's more of one than the other. Okay, on a Saturday, I'm at home with my family and my wife, and we have a child on the way. So my first baby's due. Thank you. Fantastic. In September. So
Boy, girl, do you know yet?
We don't know. There's not many surprises left in life, so this is going to be a big one. Human, hopefully. 10 fingers, 10 toes.
Lefty, obviously.
Lefty, yeah, whether they like it or not. Yeah. So that's going to change my priorities. So time management is just this everyday battle. But if you don't, you fall to the level of your systems. Yeah. And if I do not have a system that enables me to manage my time, I cannot wear all those hats. And I want to wear all the hats because there's so much opportunity. The golf industry is just the best industry to be in at the minute, in my opinion. Yeah. The evolvement of golf and the evolvement of golf business is just so exciting. Yeah. So I am trying to get myself on the front foot of all of that. Yeah.
And you've immersed yourself. I mean, I think in some ways it's been clever, but I think also from what you're saying, it's probably kind of evolved as well, whereby you have got quite a lot of well-known people who come here, which is nice because the course lends into a filming scenario because it doesn't take too long. Yeah. It's very picturesque. Yeah. You can go out very easily early morning and get stuff done. You can use the studio. But also, we were saying at the beginning, you represent some brands as well. So Adidas, Titleist.
That's right. Yeah.
I remember you had Tyrrell Hatton here for Adidas.
That's right.
Wasn't it just with the hoodie when he won? It
was Wentworth Week.
Wentworth Week, and the whole hoorah.
And then he wins on the Sunday.
He was filming the hoodie on here, wasn't he?
He was filming on the Tuesday, picking up the trophy on the Sunday, wearing his hoodie. He was the first guy, right? Yeah. He dominated Wentworth that week. Yeah. His ball striking was sublime, and my connection with Adidas again stems back to a previous relationship. The head of Europe for marketing and sales is old colleague from Wentworth. He was a teaching pro at Wentworth, Chris Hederman. Okay. Brilliant professional in the industry. And he and I had a great relationship. And I told him about Sunningdale Heath. I said, hey, guess what? We've just bought a golf club and we plan to make it, slightly ahead of the curve and more commercially focused, lots of influence on junior golf and corporate days and growing a membership and social media and dogs. I'll give the whole story. And all of a sudden, I was a really eligible ambassador for the brand based on the story that we were trying to tell at Sunningdale Heath. Mm-hmm. So that was an organic partnership that stemmed from a historic relationship. And I think that again has been a constant in my career. When I meet somebody for the first time in the golf industry, I have no preconceived ideas of what I want. I love people and I love the industry. So I want to hear their story, what they're up to. We'll connect because we'll have that shared passion. And then through time that will evolve. And you can't have enough friends in the golf industry because it's a small business and a small place. So once you get a reputation for yourself, it's hard to undo. Yeah. And I think that that's come naturally to me because I don't have any preconceived notions when I meet people in the industry. I am genuinely fascinated by what they do, who they are, and what club they work at. And we've just come back from a 3-day golf tour of Scotland that we take our clients on, and I'm just scanning around the clubhouse and looking at the front house and looking at the way that they've designed their bunkering, and I'll just be learning the whole time. But I think that if you don't have the passion for the industry and to learn and to be educated yourself, and it sort of stems a little bit back from what we said about having the ego and not bringing in more people to help you make decisions, then you stunt your growth. Yeah, definitely. So the long answer to the partnerships question is it stems from, having parallels, our brand here and my brand against theirs, but it also stems from having relationships within those brands. Yeah. Because people want to work with people that they like.
And cleverly, you know, those brands that you've associated with are probably bigger than Sunningdale Heath. So that is great. You know, when I was at St Andrews, we did a lot of work on branding, and it was always kind of set yourself either level or above. And obviously at St Andrews Links Trust, it's like we were growing, you know, because everybody thinks the RNA looks after all the courses, but the Links Trust is, certainly in my time and now certainly where it is today, you know, people do know about the Links Trust and they've done a really good job with that. But we looked for brands that we wanted to be associated with who were probably above that as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things with the Junior Golf Association, we actually, I mean, it was me again, a bit like yourself, like who's the best? Who's brought the best people through? And at that time, it was Sir Alex Ferguson. And so we, through that connection, I wrote to him, he wrote me back. And we got Paul Laurie involved and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And suddenly I remember we had 25 kids go down to see Manchester United overnight, which is, I suddenly realised about 2 o'clock in the morning going like, what have I done? I've got like 25 kids and there's like 4 dads and it's like, oh my God. But it was brilliant and he gave so much time. And he showed us all around Carrington and we had girls and we had boys. And the next day we went and watched Manchester United versus West Ham. And Bex was playing and all these, and we were in the families areas. So the girls were all like, oh, let's push. Push. You know, so you can imagine. Those, I think today, if they listen, those guys from St Andrews will still remember that trip. I was like, that doesn't really get any better.
That's an amazing experience you've given them.
And it just shows you, but from a brand association, who's done what with junior golf or junior football, junior in general, and who have gone on to be successful. And in my mind, that was Manchester United. I mean, you're an Arsenal fan, aren't you?
No, I'm a Manchester United fan.
Oh, you are a Manchester fan. I thought for some reason, I think
Ryan Giggs was my hero growing up.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
Ryan Giggs and Tiger Woods.
You know.
Oh, you've had a good couple of weeks then.
Yeah, we had a very good couple of weeks. It's so funny because we had so many Arsenal fans. Obviously, we have Lee Dixon as well.
Yeah.
So I did, funny enough, just mention to Lee that we were the only team in North London to have a trophy this year. So that was quite good. I know you've got plans for the course, and you know, next 10 years, where does Sunningdale Heath go? Where do you see it evolving? Because are you maxed out with membership, or are you're obviously a very busy place, and you have to make sure that everything works. As you were saying, you've got people coming in who with groups, you've got juniors, you've got people who've been members here for a long time, you've got new members. Where does it go? Where do you see the
That's a good question. It's interesting because when you start out, if we rewind 6 years, we're putting the business plan together. It was premium, short golf, great golf lessons, great food, great greens. We feel like we're pretty close to achieving that. We didn't think beyond 5 years, and that's the truth. So we're at 5.5 years now. We've been working on a business plan for about the last 18 months, maybe even 2 years, that gives us a sort of 25-year future. Now, we've just been awarded Short Course of the Year.
Saw that.
In the Golf Course Awards. Thank you. It was a huge moment for us.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And as much as I think the golf course was given, the due recognition that it deserves, it was laid out 120 years ago. And it's been evolved. We've improved the quality of the grass, but we haven't redesigned and changed it. And it doesn't have practice facilities, which is definitely a facility limitation that we know we have. It doesn't have an irrigation system, which means that grass quality isn't as good as it could be. The plan for any business is to increase its revenues, and it's hard to continue to charge more money if the product doesn't warrant that fee. Also, we have inflationary pressures and operational costs that every business is facing in the UK at the minute. It's very difficult to run profitable businesses at the moment in the UK, certainly in the hospitality sector.
Totally agree with you, absolutely.
We're trying to diversify outside of just golf. I think that the golf lessons and the academy business is very strong here, and our restaurant business is getting strong too. And our wine and F&B is something we're going to look into more, because we all agree, and I think this conversation, you and I are both singing from the same hymn sheet here, that the golf club is not just about the golf course. It's about a place that people want to be. And if somebody came up here and hit chips, putts, drank wine, ate lunch, took a few business calls and went home, I think that's as successful as somebody coming here and enjoying the golf course.
Yeah.
That shows that there's more to the place in the course. So we have architects working on a plan, which we're calling the master plan, which encompasses an 18-hole course. We're going to maintain that, 2.5 hours for 18 holes of premium golf is just, it has the USP.
Yeah.
It was built ahead of its time.
Absolutely.
When Harry Colt was the secretary at Sunningdale, he had a piece of land to work with, and he could have built 9 holes, but he didn't. He built a miniature 18 holes. Now, whether he did that...
And a good one as well.
And a good one, right? It's
I mean,
the same
14
land.
par threes, 4 par fours. I used to bring
par.
people here and they go, oh, Flanners, what you brought me to a pitch and putt 9-holer.
Yeah.
I said, no. I said, I'll give you £100. I did this on numerous occasions. I said, I'll give you £100 if you beat your handicap.
Yeah.
I didn't give £100 away.
Wow.
Ever.
Yeah. We always offer a pint. You're more generous. I'm more confident, mate. But the course record was 2
I was really confident. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the future plans are exciting. We do have plans to show and announce our future to the golfing world and the club this year.
Brilliant. Look forward to that. Yeah.
And it will be exciting because there's actually, what we've learned is we've had to be really economical with our space because we don't have much here.
Yeah.
So we've learned to be really smart with every square foot of property that we have. This plan is that. It's quite a, to give you a bit of a preview, it's quite a dynamic facility. So it could be a number of things. And I guess it's kind of emblematic of my life and Christian's life, which is where we're having to wear a lot of hats to be successful. I think this golf club has to be the same. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of golf clubs that are in that category too.
Yeah.
There are great examples of businesses in golf now that have so much more than 18 great holes. That's very much the product, but there's so much more around it. So we're trying to do that here with the space that we have. So the plans are to maintain 18 holes of fast premium golf, but to encompass practice facilities and more restaurant facilities as well. And ultimately, the plan here is to put Sunningdale Heath on the map for people that come in from America, people that come and travel to play golf. We were just in Scotland this week and it was like being in a state of America. There was probably 90% American clientele on those golf courses throughout the last few days. So people are flying over.
Probably the only people could afford to go and play those golf courses because of the prices that they're charging and getting.
Well, also they're more American owned than they ever were.
Correct.
The Americans have had a big undertaking in the Algarve. The Arrow Group have picked up hotels and golf courses there. Yeah. Cabot have made a big play in Scotland, and down here in London and in the south of England, there is amazing top 100 golf, and I think there's a future here. I hope there's a future here where we can all connect with each other.
Well, it's funny you say that because Danny Pecorelli with both Royal Berkshire and Pennyhill Park is working on a Heathland course to get Americans who want to come into London to stay there, and then this would be a lovely little place to come and bring Americans. Just either start or the end of the tour would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Exactly right. That's exactly how we see it. This would be a destination course, and short golf is just so much more in the world of golf. All the great championship courses have short course. You think of the Cradle at Pinehurst, and you think of Streamsong that have just done the Chain. I believe that Loch Lomond are looking at doing a short course as well to complement their championship. And not only does that give the customers a bit more, something a bit different, but it also gives the families a reason to be at the golf clubs as well.
Yeah.
This can't just be about the stereotypical male that is the member of the club. I think that the future of golf is that it has to engage with every single member of the family. Yeah. So short golf is a great connector for that.
There's a magazine called Golf Kitchen. It's run by a lady called Diana DeLucia. It's killed me if I get her name wrong. But amazing lady. 15 years ago, she wanted to do a magazine based on hospitality for golf clubs. Got completely laughed out of sight. Basically, like nobody wants to know about cooking. Now she is in every single country club with big clubs vying for their chef to be on the front cover of that magazine.
Very good.
Because hospitality is such a big thing in country clubs. They expect exactly what you're saying, and what we used to think at Loch Lomond is they expect that golf course to be what I've paid for. That's it. That's a given. What we really want is the wow factor of the food, the beverage, the stories, the lifestyle, and that's what I'm getting from you. Is that what Sunningdale Heath is going to bring, not just for the membership, but in order to be sustainable and profitable, you have to bring in the outside on a wet Tuesday evening to be able to pay for the executive chef, etc., etc., etc.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this as much as we have passion for the purity of golf, we have to realize as a commercial entity, has to run at profit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to be irresponsible with the business that we have, and then ultimately we're going to have golf clubs that are closing down. And there's so many stories of clubs in the south of England that are being sold for property, for housing, because people are seeing that as an opportunity to cash out. We know there's a housing crisis in the UK and in England at the minute, but we have to hold on to these facilities because they're important to the communities.
Yeah. And the tradition.
Yes.
Yeah, no, definitely. We always ask these two last questions, and it's like, so if you won the golf lottery, here's a pile of cash. Doesn't matter how much it is. And I've been surprised by some of the answers that people have given me, pleasantly surprised. But Tom, what would you do from a golfing perspective if you won the lottery?
With regard to Sunningdale Heath?
No, just in general. In general. I mean, like, David Shepherd said he built his own 9-hole course and just from his mates and, have exactly what he wanted on the menu, can't
That's it.
Different things.
Well, Sunningdale Heath, that's a good idea, by the way. I hope you'd invite me. Sunningdale Heath, so we need investment into Sunningdale Heath at the moment. So we don't have an irrigation and drainage system that is sufficient for the quality that we want it to be. That would be first. Second would be to expand the clubhouse so that we could open up a restaurant, an F&B facility that everybody from the local area comes to. We are open already. We're not closed to them. But we want to encourage even more of that. And the only way we could do that is just to expand the size a little bit. So this would become the best short course in the world, bar none, but also become one of the best golf experiences in the world. For its size, it packs a punch, but I think it'd pack a bigger punch if we could really start to invest in this facility. And I look at some of the eye-watering investments that go into US facilities, and it makes me feel a little jealous. If we could just bring in that capital, that would really expand the offering that we have. We'd be less stressed about, the penny pinching that we have to do to run the club at a profitable place for a small business of its size. It would take away all the pressure. And we could then just focus on providing a facility that would create the best experiences for family and friends. And the ultimate goal is that if in 25, 30, 35 years time, or beyond the days where I'm long and gone, I would love people to sort of turn around and say that Sunningdale Heath meant something to them, that it gave them confidence, or it gave them a skill, or it gave them a friendship that meant something to them and had an impact on their lives. So I guess my answer to the question is I would just want to make Sunningdale Heath 10 times what it is now, but ultimately with the same culture. Yeah, the same ingredients, just on steroids. Bigger. Yes. I get that. And the last question, so you've got one course to play. You've got 3 other people to play it with. Who would you play? Where would you play? And why? So, interesting one for me. So a little bit in golf and a little bit outside of golf. So growing up, I was a big rugby fan. Okay. So a guy that we talk about discipline and obsession and elite performance was Johnny Wilkinson. Yeah. And modesty. Yeah. He, to me, was the flagship man as much as he was the sportsman. So I'd like to play golf with Johnny Wilkinson. Have you done that? Never. Never? Okay. I've never met him. Okay. But I would love to. If you're listening, Johnny. If you're listening, Johnny, come down to Sunningdale Heath. The second guy would be Tiger Woods, because he was my golfing hero. The reason that I got into golf, the Nike hat, the 300-yard drives, and the athletic excitement. So Tiger Woods was absolutely my obsession growing up. He's been on quite a few last 4 balls. I imagine, for the same kind of reason. It's hard to not. He's almost godlike, isn't he? Yeah. And then the last one, a cliche, but it would be my dad, because my dad's a chef. A retired chef now, thankfully. He's having some rest time. He worked some long hours in his life. He got me, he was the guy that would drive me to the golf course and encourage me and buy me some golf balls and some clubs. And he was the guy that after school, playing 9 holes in the evening, twilight golf, that was my happy place growing up, because I was out there with my dad and doing something that, as I said to you before, it was like an artist with a paintbrush. It was just me and a 7-iron carving the ball around the trees, and that was my enjoyment. That was my freedom from school, which I didn't enjoy too much growing up. And I think now this is a really unusual one, but I would choose Valderrama. Wow, that is unusual. And it's Marmite with people. For me, it's one of the very classy facilities and clubs in the world. Pure class.
Javier's done a great job there.
Yes,
Really good
yes.
guy.
Who I've met,
Yeah.
he's done a fantastic job as a leader there.
Hopefully, we'll have him on the podcast very soon.
Good. I interviewed him on a podcast once, 5-6 years ago, and he was brilliant on the pod. And my dad took me there for my 16th birthday present. And it was his 70th birthday last year, and I returned the favour. So Valderrama has a special place in my heart, not just because of that, but because I actually love the intricacy of the golf course. Small greens, intricate targets.
Yeah.
So Valderrama with my dad.
Trees in the middle of the fairways.
Trees in the middle of the fairways. I love that because it's not conventional to modern day architecture. Yeah. And I love, in a weird way, watching these elite players have a hard time around there because it's not the way that they want it to be.
Yeah.
That's why I think it has so much charm. So, yeah, that's my 4-ball and that's my course.
Tom, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Congratulations on what you're achieving with Sunningdale Heath. And by the sounds of it, there's some exciting stuff ready to be launched. And I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. Yeah. So cheers.
Cheers.
Till next time.
Yeah, till next time.